So you completed the carbon footprint survey, and that was directing us to think about what's happening with humans that's putting carbon in the atmosphere, right? We know that CO2 is one of our biggest gases within the atmosphere. So the question is, well, where is it coming from? So a lot of those things, all of those things on our survey list were thinking about using energy, using fossil fuels. So if we look at our picture here, if we were to illustrate where fossil fuels were being used in our picture, maybe your eyes are directed to this spot right here, right? We have the camper emitting exhaust because something's being burned inside of its engine, like coal and oil. Those are releasing CO2 into the atmosphere. So as we start to illustrate this carbon cycle, we would show carbon being transferred from the camper to the atmosphere, right? But the question is then, well, where is this carbon coming from? Where is this carbon source coming from? These are fossil fuels, which of course are found inside the earth, leftover remains of buried plants and animals over time, creating these fuels that we use for energy: coal, oil, and natural gas. So again, when we illustrate our carbon cycle, let's switch this. Now we're thinking about, well, like we said, where did this come from? We can see on our picture here, we've got some fossil fuel deposits. Those have to be mined and processed to be able to be used inside of a fuel tank like this one. So then the question is, well, where do those fossil fuels come from? Like we said, they're the plant and animal remains. So decomposed over time, broken down, plant remains, organic material, can become fossil fuels. And the cycle kind of continues. Well, where did the carbon within the plants come from? Where did they get it? They used to be these full, healthy trees. Where are they getting carbon from as a growing tree? Well, that's through the process of photosynthesis, right? They're absorbing carbon from the atmosphere into their roots, right? So this idea is that carbon can circulate all around the earth through all the spheres. And so that's really what you're going to be looking at today. So as you get into Schoology, you're going to find this carbon cycle game, Carbon Cycle Explore, and you are going to grab this document and get it into your Notability. Here it is. And we have a little paragraph here giving kind of a rundown. Carbon is present in all the different spheres of the earth. So these are all the different categories of natural things on earth. We have biosphere, those are living things, hydrosphere, water, geosphere, rock, and atmosphere, air. So the carbon can move through all of those spheres, and it can occur in different forms in all those objects. For example, carbon in the atmosphere we've been talking about as CO2 or methane gas. That C there stands for carbon. In the geosphere, the rocks, the earth, carbon would be part of coal. You can see the molecule here for coal has a C, or diamonds, just straight up carbon. So carbon changes when it's in different spheres, becomes a different product available to thrive in those spheres. So for us, when we breathe, we have carbon in our bodies. We release out in the form of CO2 through respiration. So this carbon's moving all throughout the spheres like we saw in that image. You are going to model that in this activity. You're going to take an adventure as an atom of carbon traveling through the world. For each step in your journey, you're going to record information about how you got to that location, information about that location, and then where you're headed. So depending on how it works out, you might get stuck somewhere. The more detail you can write down, the better off it's going to be for you later. So this first part here is an example. Okay, so you're going to need, being working on this at home, you're going to need access to these locations. So again, back to Schoology, you have these slides available to you. So opening those up, you're going to be on Google Slides. Here we go. So I'm going to go half screen. So this is going to be a little tricky at home, but you can do it. So I just picked a spot to start. I said soil. So I'm going to scroll through here, find where soil is. All right, here's soil. So I want to record in soil, and then I want to record in what sphere it is. So geosphere is all earth related things, so that's why I picked geosphere. And I want to record in some details about being in the soil. So here's that information in the middle. Soil contains a lot of carbon in the form of dead plants, bacteria, other small organisms that live there. So I'm looking at recording some of that information. It's in the soil within the dead plant and animal remains. There it is, mixed in. Then the next column here is, well, where are you going? So I would roll the dice. At home, you can pick a number. If you have a dice, great. If you want to just rotate 1, 2, 3, and so on. So I rolled the dice. I got a 4. So my next location is Sedimentary Rock. And how am I moving there? So I'm just using this information right here. I get compressed from the soil into a sedimentary rock. So the detail of my movement is compressed, and I'm headed to Sedimentary Rocks. So as I plan my next section, I have to find that Sedimentary Rocks page. So I'm going to scroll through, looking for Sedimentary Rocks. Here it is. So details, I have to look carefully at where I'm coming from, right? I'm coming from the soil. So I'm going to look here, Sedimentary Rocks. Am I coming from dead plant and animal remains or chemical reaction and tectonics? So which one of those matches the detail of where I was coming from? Well, that's this one. So I'm just recording what I read. Dead plants and animals are embedded in the mud. Heat and pressure compresses them into a sedimentary rock. So this is how I got to this location from soil. So I started in soil. Here's what I know. I got compressed to sedimentary rocks through this process. Now I'm at Sedimentary Rocks. This is my location number 2. What do I know about it? Taking information from here and then rolling the dice, picking a number. Where am I going? I rolled a 5. So I'm getting, my movement is being weather and eroded, and I'm going to fresh water because I picked a 5. So then I would go back here, scroll around, looking for fresh water. Here it is, fresh water. So on my next column, how did I arrive at fresh water? Remembering that I came from Sedimentary Rocks. So the lake and the stream weathered and eroded me. So I would record that information. My location is fresh water. I'm CO2 as fresh water. And then I'd roll my dice and I would keep going. So this part is complete just to kind of show you the process. This is the one that you are going to be working on here. You can pick any location to start. Once you get your location decided, figure out what sphere you're in, record the details from the middle. You're going to roll the dice over here. Where are you going? That's where you roll or pick a number. Give an explanation of how you're leaving, where you're headed. And then you get yourself to that next location and work your details. So there's 10 stops on here. That's where you're trying to get to for today.